What does some Meccano, the official Secrets Act, and Max Mosley have to do with the badge on this car? I've also decided that this is not a restomod, but we'll come back to that. This is the RML short wheelbase, and I think it's fascinating. As you might be able to tell, it takes its inspiration from a 1960s Ferrari 250 short wheelbase, one of the greatest cars of all time. However, its underpinnings are much more modern. I'll leave you guessing about their origin for just a little bit longer, but rest assured, this still has a naturally aspirated V12 and 3 pedals. This is so fun to drive. It's so tactile. The most obvious thing in here is the gear shift. This open-gated 6-speed H-pattern manual. I love that noise when you downshift. Tink of the metal. I really wasn't terribly sure about this steering wheel when I first saw it, but to use, it's just wonderful. This thin rim really makes such a difference. Instantly the whole thing feels like it has a little bit more weight to it, and certainly a whole lot more tactility. It's not just in terms of the steering and gear shift that this car feels so tactile, so enjoyable. Even things like just the indicator. There's a slickness to that. There's sort of weight inherent to it, something that you just wouldn't get with a plastic stalk. In fact, there is about £85,000 of machined metal in this cabin, and even though this is the prototype car, the way the controls ooze quality reminds me of a Bugatti Veyron. The big bug didn't have a hidden screen that rises like a Wurlitzer though. Of course, at £1.35 million plus taxes, each of the eventual 30 RML short wheelbases will cost about the same as a Veyron these days, although that is just a quarter of the price of an original Ferrari 250 short wheelbase. How do I know this? Because I had a look on the Hagerty valuation tool, something you get unlimited access to if you sign up to the Hagerty Drivers Club. You'll also receive an award-winning magazine and get 24/7 roadside assistance with flatbed towing, and you'll be kindly supporting this channel. So, what is the thinking behind this car? Well, RML is a British engineering company set up in 1984, and the letters stand for Ray Mallock Limited. You might not have heard of it, but you probably have heard of the things it's been involved with. Things like the Aston Martin and Bizzarini continuation cars, the McLaren Senna GTR, the Nio EP9 and the Nissan ZEOD RC, which was the Garage 56 entry at Le Mans in 2014. So, here's Ray's son, Michael, who's now CEO of RML Group, to explain some more about this short wheelbase.
So this started about 4 years ago, and the initial concept was actually to do a Mallock hypercar. So the purpose of that was to showcase what RML as a business does and has been doing for nearly the last 40 years, but in a way that we can show and talk about, because the majority of our business we can't. So at that point, doing a hypercar was the easy thing for us to do. It's what we've done for multiple manufacturers over the last few years, but we wanted to do it in our own way to have something that we could showcase what the business does. So we went out and started raising the funds, got a good way through that, and then I realised that I didn't want a Mallock with a top trumps type programme. The current hypercars are amazing and incredible, but to enjoy them you need a Grand Prix circuit. So I kind of took a step back and tried to figure out what would make me smile and make me proudest. So we came up with this concept of the short wheelbase, which celebrates the 1950s, 1960s design era, which for me was the best time, and in a package that you could enjoy driving on normal roads. So it's all about engagement and fun, and something that you can enjoy at safe, normal road speeds.
The body is all carbon fibre, and the running gear underneath, 10 Hagerty house points if you said Ferrari 550 Maranello. However, this is not just a reskin. For a start, the engine is effectively blueprinted, and a whole new cooling system had to be created to fit in the significantly shorter nose. So what are you getting over a Ferrari 550 Maranello? Well, for a start, you're getting the sound, because the Ferrari 550 is actually quite a quiet car, and this isn't. It has a wonderful sort of rasp to it, just like you'd expect to find actually on a Colombo V12 in an old 60s Ferrari. It is capable of being relatively demure and quiet still. At lower revs, you'll soothe along without being boomy or irritating at all. But change down, and after the clack clack or ting ting of the manual box, you get this fabulous V12. It's such a distinctive sound, and I couldn't help but hear a bit of M3 CSL in that rasp as well. This is plenty quick enough as well. All 479 brake horsepower is definitely there, and 419 pounds-foot of torque. It is a magnificent engine, this. So deeply powerful, so flexible. It really does feel Shire horse strong, as though you could pull away in sixth without breaking a sweat. This is a car that straight away you think, oh, I could do a lot of miles in this. I could live with it every day, to be honest, which is exactly what RML wanted. It doesn't feel difficult or arduous to drive. No, the gear shift is not perhaps the slickest, the smoothest. There's a bit of stiction in there. You have to give it time. It doesn't really want to be rushed. It's a wide car as well, this. Not massively wide by modern standards, but certainly wide when you look at the rest of the car, because the dimensions actually in terms of length and wheelbase are not wildly different from an original 250 short wheelbase. But the width, yes, that is significantly different, about 30 centimetres wider. It doesn't feel like a light car. Despite the full carbon body, this is not that much lighter than a standard 550 Maranello's 1700 kilos. I think the slightly more languid suspension tune of the short wheelbase inevitably exacerbates the sense of weight as well. The way the new passive Öhlins dampers have been set up to breathe with the road and allow a bit of movement brings to mind cars of an earlier era too. To that extent, this really does feel like a GT car. There is some more roll and squat and dive in it, which I really like. And that exacerbates the speed that this has. It means you do have to just wait a little bit in the corners. It's a car that you want to let settle and then drive it through. The mixing of ages is of course the whole point of this sort of car. But what is this sort of car? We need more names, because that is not a restomod. We started using that as a sort of catch-all for anything that's not brand new or a bona fide classic. But a restomod, something that's restored and then modernised, is an Alphaholics or an Eagle E-Type. And this is not one of those. Neither is it really a backdate or a continuation or a remake like the Mark Wahlberg Italian Job or the Pierce Brosnan Thomas Crown affair. It's more akin, I think, to one of these sort of cameras, the Fujifilm X100 series, which looks like a rangefinder and has all sorts of manual controls on it, like an aperture ring, but also all the modern digital gubbins inside. We need more names in our lexicon. Perhaps retromod or retronod. Something to think about. Usually the creators of this sort of car rely on, well, the original for all the heritage and an awful lot of the underlying appeal. And it's the same with this, of course. However, there is also intrinsic heritage and kudos in the badge on the nose of this. Yes, there is the impressive work that RML has been involved with, but it runs deeper than that, all the way back to Michael's grandfather. Who do you think said some of these things? Simplify and add lightness. Weight begets weight. The competition starts when the rulebook is published. You might think that it was Colin Chapman, but actually It was Arthur Mallock. Born in 1918, 10 years before Colin, Arthur was described by F1 driver Piers Courage as someone capable of making incredibly simple cars go incredibly quickly. At the tender age of just 8, he built his own Meccano car, complete with 4-speed gearbox, limited slip diff, semi-elliptic springs. He declared in later life, "I knew everything there was about building a car apart from the engine by the time I was 9. He was a founding member of the 750 Motor Club, and his first competitive outing in an Austin 7 Special of his own making was at Hartlepool Speed Trial in 1939. The Second World War rather got in the way at that point. Mallock was already a commissioned officer with the Royal Signals, with whom he stayed until 1958, rising to the rank of Major. After that, well, he joined the civil service over there in the rather mysterious Hanslope Park, otherwise known as His Majesty's Government's Communications Centre. What he did there was design electronics for national security. Beyond that, we don't know, because it's all covered by the Official Secrets Act. The point is, he didn't design race cars as his day job, but he was bloody brilliant at it. He was renowned for being able to set up cars incredibly well, something of a suspension genius. He was an early proponent of corner weights and used to take his bathroom scales all over the country, setting up cars, even a few original 250 short wheelbases. So why isn't his name a household one? Why isn't it revered along with the likes of Chapman and Enzo Ferrari? Why didn't he win multiple world championships? Well, Mallock was rather more altruistic, philanthropic. He sold his U2 space frame chassis, the advertising catchphrase being "U2 could have a chassis like mine," for £48 from the family farm. The idea being that it gave the perfect cost-effective basis for people to build up a competitive car. Yes, he built the cars so that he could go racing, but also so that many others of modest means could do the same. And although Mallock didn't win lots of world championships, he was arguably just as important in the history of Formula One and world motorsport. People like Patrick Head, Harvey Postlethwaite, and yes, Max Mosley, they all cut their teeth on a Mallock chassis. And who knows how different things would look if they hadn't pursued a career in motorsport. In short, the Mallock name deserves wider recognition, and if you're driving a car with an RML badge on it, then you can be sure that it has real history and pedigree behind it. I am aware of the irony that this costs £1.6 million, and I'm talking about somebody that, well, helped the masses, helped the everyman go motor racing by making it as cheap as possible. But what I really hope is that RML goes on to perhaps produce something on a much more affordable scale, with all the know-how that's in this car, all their considerable engineering background. Something for everyone else, but with a lot of the spirit of this.